For playing. See, as I've traveled around the country, I've found a few things out about the people in this audience. See, I found that every single one of you have touched other people's lives, and you've given them love. And you know how I know that? See, for 20 years I've been working in the healthcare profession. I know something about the people in this room, that you have to have hearts that are this big in order to do the things that you do and deal every single day with the issues that we deal with. See, but if you don't have love in your heart, if you're not helping people out, which is really what we're all here about today, you're not going to be able to strive for excellence. Well, see, as I travel around the country, I have a favorite question that I ask. And some of you have been asked that question by me already this week. And I travel around the country and I ask people, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you know the number one answer I get 95% of the time from the majority of individuals in this country? I don't know. Well, you see, I sit there and I say, well, you're not coming back. You better figure out what it is that you want to be when you grow up. You know the interesting thing that I found out about the people in this room, though? Most of you know what you want to be when you grow up, and you're doing it right now. And you're helping people. And that is the best thing that you can do on this planet, is to touch other people's lives. Well, I had the opportunity to have lunch yesterday with Peter and Nancy and Donna. And I said to Donna Schlossberg, I said, let me ask you a question. And I said to Nancy, I said, let me ask you a question. What happens in your facility in the absence of excellence? And some of the information I got from them was information I already knew, but it was confirmed by them once again. And some of these things that happen are, one, we don't get paid in the absence of excellence, do we? Things don't get done. Paperwork gets messed up. Insurance companies want to come in and ask us more questions. They want more paperwork. It's not like it was in the 80s. See, I loved in the 80s. In the 80s, I would send my bill in, and they would pay me. How cool was that? They didn't even want notes from me. And then deductibles would be met, and after that out-of-pocket expense, this was the best part. They paid at 100%. Does anybody remember those days? Those days are gone. See, now we have different regulations. We got the legislature. We don't know what's going to happen with PIP. PIP may go away tomorrow. See, but the difference between the people that are going to stay in business and the people that are going to strive for excellence is how you deliver that service. And if you're delivering that service in a different way, and you're educating your patients, and you're educating their families, and you're educating the doctors, your businesses will grow and thrive. It's interesting what Donna St. Louis had said about the PAC. See, it's really important that you not only educate your doctors, but you educate the patients also. See, because when you educate the patients, something really cool happens. They start to tell other people about you. And you know what's really neat? I found out about individuals that have healthcare issues. They will pull money out of their pockets. Can you believe that? To pay for their healthcare. Now, how would that be if you didn't have to send a bill to Medicare, but someone said, you know what? You're doing such a great job, I just want to pay you. You probably would fall off of your chair and see if they were okay, maybe even submit them to a psychiatric hospital, because you don't think anybody does that. See, but when we're striving for excellence, people will do that. People will pay, and communication happens. So you're going to have to make your facilities more effective. You're going to have to not only educate the doctors, because sometimes we don't know what's going on. See, what I also found out about a lot of you people is no different than the lawyers that I work with and the facilities that I operate. You guys do the majority of the work. Isn't that the truth? So you know what's going on. You're in touch. You're on the front lines. And because you're on the front lines, you provide the link to get everybody together. See, but I also found something else out. I found out that there are two triads to your success in healthcare. And the first one I call the personal triad. And that personal triad has three different legs to that triad. And the first leg of that triad is love. So you've got to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, you're in the wrong business. And you know what I found out? That the majority of you love what you do. And that is really cool. See, I know you're going to come in touch with doctors, you're going to come in touch with nurses, you're going to come in touch with other administrators, you're going to come in touch with insurance inspectors, and the people who are going to review your claims. And what you're going to have is you're going to have love in your heart. See, I also know something else, that some of these people that you come in contact with, you could not warm up to them if you were cremated with them. Anybody know these type of people? So we have this happening out there. Well, see, a number of years ago, I had a patient, and her name was Mary Ann. Now, Mary Ann was the type of person, it was like someone licked all the red off her candy cane. Anybody ever meet somebody like that? Just an unhappy individual. See, but she was unhappy for a reason. See, Mary Ann was suffering from migraine headaches for over 30 years. So if anybody here has had migraine headaches, you know sometimes death is a step up. And Mary Ann just was not who Mary Ann really was. Well, I had a challenge with my staff. See, because every time they saw Mary Ann's car pulled up, they ran into the back room and they drew straws. They wanted to see who got stuck with Mary Ann that day, because nobody wanted to deal with Mary Ann. Well, Mary Ann came into the clinic, and she was there for a couple of months, and something magical happened. See, Mary Ann started to get better. And it was an interesting thing that overtook Mary Ann. See, Mary Ann, as she started to become better, her psychology changed, her physiology changed. She became a different person. Well, my staff was still picking straws, and Mary Ann pulled up one day. They all ran to the back, and they said, okay, who's going to get stuck with Mary Ann today? You take her. No, I'm not taking her. You take her. No, listen, I took her last time. I'll trade you 2 Mary Anns. You take her twice, and I'll take Josie over here. No doubt about it, Josie will be better today. You take Mary Ann twice. I'll make you a trade. How many of you have ever wanted to make a trade so that someone else can deal with that difficult individual? Maybe it's that difficult doctor, where you don't want to come in and tell the doctor what to do for fear. I've had these experiences before, sometimes with my own staff, where they came to me and said, well, you know, I was kind of embarrassed, a little bit afraid to come in and speak with you. Well, this one day, Mary Ann pulled up, and she came up to the front desk. And as she walked up to the front desk, she said, how's everybody doing today? Well, my front desk girl turned white as a ghost. She could not believe Mary Ann even spoke with a smile on her face. And she said, we're doing just great. How are you doing? And Mary Ann said, last night was the first night that I did not have a migraine headache in over 30 years. I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, over the next couple of months, Mary Ann continuously came in, and she got better and better. And the staff started picking straws to see who got to get Mary Ann. See, Mary Ann then came in with cakes and cookies and theater tickets. And Mary Ann, around Christmas time, brought everybody a special gift. See, because Mary Ann truly wanted help. And when the staff started putting it out there, when the staff started to love the patients as much as they loved themselves, she started to become a different person. Mary Ann has been a patient in my office for over 15 years. After I sold my practice, I willed Mary Ann to my partner, Rich. And Mary Ann still comes in. And when I go visit St. Louis, there's Mary Ann. See, you've got to think about some of these stories. You've got to realize how you touch people's lives. See, you're touching people's lives on a regular basis. You're touching their families' lives, and you don't even realize it. Well, the second part of that triad of love, appreciation, respect is appreciation. Now, I just want you to know that patients need love, appreciation, and respect, like the food they eat, the air they breathe, and the water they drink. If you give them these things, they will give you everything. They will send you business. They will tell others about you, and your practice will grow. Well, we have patients out there that want to be appreciated also. And you never know when someone needs that appreciation. Maybe they need that special hug. Maybe they need something different in their lives to take them to the next level. Well, for the last month and a half, I've been traveling around the country, and I've been very busy. And I've spoken in Maine, I've spoken in Vermont, I've spoken in Kentucky, I've spoken in Illinois, I've spoken in Missouri, I've spoken in Florida. I kind of lose track. Sometimes I come up to a hotel room and it's a quiz. You know, what room am I in? I don't know. Or I'll say rooms that they don't even exist in that hotel. Well, I was driving up through Maine, and some of you may have been in Maine before, and Maine is a beautiful scenic drive. Picture driving up 95, and the snow has just melted. There's a little bit out there, but the trees are blooming. It's beautiful. It's mountainous terrain, and you're close to the Canadian border. Well, I drove up to Maine, and I got off at 95 in a town called Presque Isle, Maine. Has anybody ever been to Presque Isle, Maine, or heard of Presque Isle, Maine? A few of you have. Well, Presque Isle, Maine is about 5 seconds from the Canadian border. It is way up there. See, when I get to Maine, I'm thinking lobster. How many of you are thinking lobster when you get to Maine? See, I'm thinking lobster when I get up there, but I don't know where to go. Well, I get off of the highway at Presque Isle, Maine, off of 95, and there's one of those little tourism booths. You've all seen those before. You know, when you enter a new state, it says, "Welcome to Maine," or "Welcome to Florida," and they've got a little tourism booth there with the candy machines and everything, but they also have every map, every restaurant, everything that you could ever imagine in that place. Well, I walked in, and there were these two elderly ladies, and they were walking around. I said, "Listen, could you help me? I'm looking for some places that I can get some lobster. I'm looking for some maps and some restaurants." Well, these women couldn't serve me any better. They went and they grabbed me maps, and they grabbed me all kinds of restaurants, and they were ready to make reservations for me. It was incredible. I had this feeling of love and appreciation from them, and you know what? If you give to get your even, if you give expecting nothing in return, you're going to be ahead of the game. Well, I'm the type of guy that I'm just a huggy, touchy, kissy guy. I don't know, that's just who I am. Well, I looked at this woman. She couldn't have been a day under 75 years old. And I said, "Get over here and give me a hug." And I gave her this big hug. And when I let her go, she looked at me and she said, "I really needed that. I was married for 52 years and my husband passed away a month ago. You don't know how important that was for me." You never know when giving that appreciation to someone else is going to have a major difference in their lives. And you know what? You got to go from the gut. I always say, listen to Jiminy Cricket. You know what Jiminy Cricket was? That's when you all took that multiple choice test in school. You remember that test? And you went back over your answers, and you changed your answer from the right one to what? The wrong one. Because you didn't listen to your gut. So sometimes you got to go with your gut. See, if you think that what you're doing is right, you're going to be successful. And if you don't think so, you're not going to be successful either. See, it's all about love, appreciation, and respect. See, you've got to have respect for what you do and what the people that work with you do. See, in my first 2 years in practice, I went through over 200 employees. You must say, "Wow, that's amazing." People would come up to me and say, "You must be tough to work for." Or, "Who's the new front desk flavor of the month? Have you ever experienced that revolving door?" Well, I figured out a long time ago, it wasn't them, it was me. You don't lose 200 people in 2 years because you're doing a great job. Well, I started to realize something a little different in the last 10 years. And my staff has been with me on average of 8 to 12 years. The people I've worked with, people could tell you that most of my best friends are around since 6th grade. I like to keep long-term relationships. See, but the difference now is my staff works with me. They don't work for me. See, I couldn't be here sharing information with you if I didn't have a dedicated staff, most of them much smarter than I am, working with me every single day. That enables me to share information with you. See, when the people work for you as opposed to with you, they're going to leave you. It's as simple as that. And when we start to work with our patients, and we start to work with their families, and we start to work with the insurance companies to get things done, we're going to be successful. See, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. If you sit down with some of your doctors and you talk to them about these donations, you're going to be shocked. Because if you don't ASK, you're not going to GET. And think about that. What is the worst thing that's going to happen? You're in the same position you were 5 minutes ago. And when they give you that check, because it's in their best interests, you've just gone to another level. So make sure that you take some of these things serious. See, because your practices are only going to be able to grow as much as you're able to get the funding in there and as much as you're able to focus on love, appreciation, respect. Well, how many of you know the golden rule? Do unto others as others would do unto you. Well, I thought about this rule for a while, and I said, you know what? This rule isn't working for me. And there's a reason why the rule doesn't work for me. See, how many of you have children? Raise your hands. Would you treat all your children the same exact way? Absolutely not, but the golden rule says, do unto others. See, I have Rick's rule, and that says, do unto others as they need to be done unto. Everybody's different. You're going to have some people that need more information, need more care, need more attention from you, and then you're going to have people that say, will you get out of my face and let me do my job? You're going to have to realize who these people are and give them what they need, not what you think they need. Every one of your patients are different. If you give them the things that they need instead of what you think they need, they're going to thrive. See, a lot of people in this room are perfectionists and control freaks. How many control freaks we have out there? Beautiful. I'm up here too. I'm a control freak. See, but the reality is we can't control everything. What we can do is put people in the right position and set them up to succeed. And when we respect the people who we work with, we're going to start to do that. We're not going to hold them to our own personal levels. When we hold people to our own personal levels, we're setting ourselves up for failure, and we're not going to be able to strive for excellence. Because most people aren't going to be able to achieve the things that we think they should be able to achieve because we set ourselves to high standards. That's why you're in this profession. That's why you're operating these facilities. That's why you're in this room. If you weren't somewhat of a control freak, you would not be successful. So it's a good thing. So the next time someone says you're a little bit of a control freak, that's okay. Sometimes you want to give up the control, though, to the people that might be able to do a better job than you can. And until you find those talents, until you start to delegate some of those things, your centers aren't going to be able to grow and thrive. And you know what the worst part about being a control freak is? You can't go on vacation. See, because you know what happens when you come back. There's piles of stuff on your desk, and you sit there and you say to yourself, you know what, why'd I even go away? I should have just stayed. I'm not taking vacations anymore because I can't leave and have things go back. It goes down to the cornerstones: love, appreciation, respect. The second triad of personal success is faith, forgiveness, and gratitude. So you've got to have faith every single day that you're doing the right thing. And if you don't have faith that you're doing the right thing, things are going to go wrong. Well, when I started my practice, things were going great. Like I told you, in the 1980s, everything was amazing. I would send a bill in. There was no electronic billing back then. I would just send the paper claims in, and they would send me checks, and I would go on vacation, and I would buy all kinds of neat stuff, and I'd play golf 3 times a week. It was unbelievable. And then I had to start to work. See, because then the insurance company started questioning everything that we did, and they wanted notes. And they wanted us to substantiate care. And they wanted us to substantiate where the procedures are necessary. And we came up against a whole bunch of different things. See, but I had to have the faith that I was going to get past that. Well, I know sometimes what happens to you. Sometimes you come into a setting like you have in the past, just recently. You've got these people out there, they're called ACA inspectors. Is anybody familiar with these people? So you know about these people, these ACA inspectors. Well, I know what goes through your mind in the morning before an ACA inspection. Not only are you driving your staff insane to make sure they're prepared, but these are the things that go through your mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
How many of you felt like this before? Say yes! Y'all ready for this? Now, I know that's happened in my office. I know I've done that. I've been up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I even go and pick my staff up so we can drive to the clinics together for the ACA inspection. And who shows up? Someone who has absolutely no clue about your business. Well, I was down in my office in Kendall, and I got to meet the ACA inspector, a former colonel in the Guatemalan army. True. Well, he sat across the desk from me, and I'm a bit of a schmoozer. I like to talk to people. So I started to attempt the schmooze. If you don't know what the schmooze is, I was just being as nice. Can I get you coffee? Can I Simonize your car? What would you like? What do you need? Let me go grab some patient files for you. I've already selected the perfect files. They don't want those files, though, do they? They want to go in your drawer and take out the files that they want to take out. Well, I sat there, and then one of our doctors came in. And one of our doctors, he's a board certified, Johns Hopkins, Cornell Medical School, Mount Sinai. He's got all the credentials, double board internal medicine and neurology, and he could schmooze anybody. Not our Guatemalan security colonel. He just sat there completely stone-faced. I had this weird feeling that I might fail my first inspection. Now, how do I share this information with my partners? This is my baby. I'm supposed to get us passed, certified. I'm the guy who had to go out and get, the maps that you have to have in your office so we can escape in case of a nuclear disaster. ACA wants to know where the records are going to be. If you got a nuclear disaster, how do we get out of here? Well, I'm starting to get the beads of sweat on my forehead. You ever feel that way? Oh my God, I better start looking for another job. Well, he looked across the table at me, and he started shaking his head, and I said, you know something? I said, I run my facilities like you would run the Guatemalan army. I said, see, I've done personality profiling for Air Force Intelligence at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They bring me in every year to sit in front of people, ask them questions, and me to see if they're telling the truth or not. I've done this for years. As soon as I said that to him, a smile came across his face. Oh, you work with the Air Force? Yes, I do. Actually, I work with the Air Force and the Army and the Navy. I've spoken around the country on different bases. Well, if that's the case, let me take a look at some. Your records look very good to me. See, I had to bond with him. I found out something about people. I found out that people do business with people who they like, who are like them. That you will spend more time with someone that you like and someone that you like to work with than someone who you don't. We'll see when we love our patients and we like what we do, we start to get through it. But as I started to see what was going on here with different inspections, I had to have a new way of looking at things. See, because I knew that if I didn't talk to myself in the proper way, see, I know some of you talk to yourselves and you say bad stuff to yourself. When you mess something up, you say to yourself, oh, I'm such a dummy. I can't believe I did that. And you beat yourselves up. So I knew that I had to have faith that I was doing the right thing. So I created an affirmation for myself. And what an affirmation is a positive statement. See, I read this book a number of years ago called Psycho-Cybernetics. Has anybody ever heard of that book? It's by a guy named Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon in New York City. And he was a famous plastic surgeon, and he had a woman that came into his office one day, and she was a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. Everyone agreed she was magnificent. But she had this little crook in her nose, and she thought that she was really ugly. Well, they went out, and they chose a new nose for her. And they went out, and they performed the surgery, and the woman came out, and she was outstanding. She was now a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. Everyone agreed she was magnificent. And she ended up suing Maxwell Maltz. See, because every time she looked in the mirror, she saw this ugly person. Well, what we found out was when it went before the judge and went before the jury, they looked at the before and after pictures, and they threw it out of court. See, this woman's mind couldn't tell the difference between something actually happening and something imagined vividly in great detail. Your mind doesn't know the difference. How many of you have woken up in the morning and said it's going to be one of those days? Raise your hands. And mom and grandma said bad things happen in threes. Does anybody have that mom or grandma like me? And your brain went on search. And you started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They just kept coming. And at the end of the day, you said to your spouse, significant other, your staff, you said, see, I was right. I knew it was going to be one of those days. See, because your brain went on search to make you right. If you don't believe this, if you're in a rush to leave today, how many red lights are you going to hit? None. Every single one. Or think about this. How many of you bought a new car in the past or just recently? I guarantee this is what happened to you. The moment you got in that new car, you started to notice that there were hundreds of them on the road. People were driving them all over the place, weren't they? Because your brain was going on search to make you right. So I knew I had to use something, use an affirmation to make myself right. So the affirmation that I have been saying for almost 20 years goes like this. I'm a healthy, vital, active, happy, and successful human being. I affirm today that all tissues and organs in my body are functioning perfectly, and that is the way it is supposed to be. I am more relaxed than ever before because I choose peaceful, loving thoughts and release my fears, worries, and anxieties. Tension is gone because I am creating an atmosphere of ease and confidence. My mind is uncluttered because I've set specific goals and planned action steps for their accomplishment. I feel better now. Nature uses the food that I eat, the air that I breathe, the water that I drink, and the rest that I get to rebuild, repair, and revitalize me for the future. Radiant energy flows through me. I also affirm today that money is plentiful and an abundant supply. And this money flows freely and constantly into my life as I render loving service to all mankind. What do you say in the morning? Oh, it's Monday. Oh, here comes the ARC inspector again. Oh, Debbie showed up. I wish she would have stayed at home. See, what you say to yourself makes a whole bit of difference. What you say to yourself matters. So I want everybody to stand up with me right now. Come on, join me in. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new affirmation. I've been thinking about this, and I want to create this affirmation specifically for you. I can tell you nobody has done this affirmation yet. You are the first group. You know how I know this? Because I tested it out with my staff 2 days ago. That's how I know this. See, because they do my affirmation. We get in a big circle and we do this. So what I'd like you to do is play along with me and follow me as we do our new affirmation. I am excellent. I am excellent. Come on, people. I am excellent. Can you say it like you mean it? You're scaring me out here. We're taking care of people's lives, and you sound like you're sleeping. So let's do it one more time. I am excellent. Yes, you are. We have another one. Are you ready? You guys did okay with that. Okay. You ready for the next one? I deserve everything. Let's say that again. I deserve everything. All right, we're going to take it past 3 words. You ready? Put your seatbelts on. Here we go. I deserve everything that life has to offer. Oh, all right. Let's do it again. I deserve everything that life has to offer. Let's start from the top. Are we ready? I am excellent. I deserve everything that life has to offer. Yes, you do. And you know what's interesting? You're never going to come up against something that you can't handle. See, everything that's thrown at you, you've been able to handle. Some of you have forgotten those things. Some of you have forgotten that you weren't able to know every single code in your mind from the first day. And you said, how am I going to ever know all this stuff? And now you can do it in your sleep, can't you? See, because you've been doing it over and over again. So let's go to our third affirmation. You guys ready? Here we go. I love touching people's lives. I love touching people's lives. All right, let's start at the beginning. I am excellent. I deserve everything that life has to offer. I love touching people's lives. Give yourselves a round of applause. That's outstanding. Why don't you have a seat? Now let me ask you a question. If you started out every day saying, I am excellent, that I deserve to have everything that life has to offer, that I love touching people's lives, how do you think your day would go?
Fantastic.
All right. I'm going to tell you it's going to go a lot better than if you say it's going to be one of those days. Because your brain doesn't know the difference, and you're going to be right. So you might as well be right at the good things. You got to be right at the good things. There's a big difference between what we internalize in our minds and what comes out in life. See, what we internalize in our minds comes out in our reality. And if we're thinking we're excellent, we'll be striving for excellence. We'll be looking for the things that we need to do to not only improve ourselves, because if we don't improve ourselves, we will never be able to improve our facilities. You've got to constantly be working on yourselves. You're all members of this outstanding organization. This is your time to bond with people that are just like you. See, some of you feel you've been blessed on or picked on by the person upstairs to have all this stuff happen to you, and the reality is when you sit down in a meeting, like the meeting you're in today, you find out that guess what? You've got a whole family of people that are involved just like you are. People experiencing the same things. You're not alone. That's the beautiful thing about this organization, is that you're not alone, and when you start to realize that you're not alone, that there's other people here to help you, you will start to ASK. And when you start to ASK, you're going to start to GET. Well, the second foundation after faith is forgiveness. See, you got to forgive yourself sometimes. You got to forgive your doctors for not giving you the full attention. They've got a lot of things on their mind also, just like you do. Sometimes I know you're sitting in your office and one of us obnoxious doctors comes walking in and you feel like you're saying, talk to the hand. I know that. I give my staff permission. See, I give them permission because I know they're working with me. They're not working for me. And that they're there to help me. And if I can understand that ultimately they're there to help me, then I can forgive them for saying to me, talk to the hand. See, you've got to start forgiving yourselves because things are going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen. Patients aren't going to show up. Doctors are not going to be there on time. Surgeries will occasionally run over. Not as much as in a hospital setting, mind you, but they will run over and things happen. See, because we live on planet Earth. And we've got to learn to forgive people. Well, I had an experience that happened to me a number of years ago. See, I started traveling around the country and showing doctors on how to set up their facilities and how to grow their practices and how to save money and how to deal with their staff because for a few years I didn't know what to do and I learned all the wrong things. And the reality is we generally only learn by failing. Well, I had failed miserably and my practice took off. And I started to practice what I preached. And I decided that what I wanted to do was sell my practice to travel around the country and speak. Well, I said to my ex-wife, Lori, I said, Lori, you know what? I'm going to travel around the country and speak. I'm going to show doctors on how to set up their facilities. This is what I'm going to do. I don't want to practice anymore. See, because I can only touch so many people in my 2,800 square foot office in St. Louis, Missouri. But if I could travel around the country and show other people on how to touch people's lives and set up their practices, they can be successful also. That's really what I want to do. And she looked at me right in the eye and she said, you can't do that. Who's going to hire you? And I said, no. I said, I'm going to travel around the country. She said, yeah, you travel around the country. You speak to your relatives in Florida and your friends in California. And that's probably where you're going to travel. Well, needless to say, the relationship didn't work out so well from that point on. Now, we have two beautiful kids, and we co-parent very well, and we get along phenomenally. Well, something interesting happened. See, because I know that a lot of you have been told in life that there were certain things that you couldn't achieve. Maybe people said, you can't do that, and you believed it and you internalized it. Or maybe you said, no, I can do that. I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. I'm going to prove you wrong. How many prove you wrong people are sitting here right now? Raise your hands. All right, so you're like me. I am a rebel. If you say I can't do something, I am going to prove you wrong every time. Good, bad, indifferent. This is just who I am. Well, what happened was 3 days ago, I got a package in the mail. Now, it was interesting that I had gotten this package because it came from my ex-wife, and she called me to ask me for my address. Now, I know she knows where the child support check comes from every month, so she probably has the address, but she called me for the address again. Well, I went and I opened up this package, and there was a book in there. See, but she didn't put the return address on the package, so I didn't know who it came from. Well, I opened it up, and it was this book called I Knew You Could. And I thought, a book for all stops in your life. Who would send me a children's book called I Knew You Could? And I opened up the front cover, and it said a book for all stops in your life. And it said, I knew you could, I knew it too, that you'd come out on top after all you've been through. And from here you'll go farther, you see brand new sights, you'll face brand new hills that rise to new heights. I thought, wow, this sounds like my favorite author, Dr. Seuss. See, I'm a big Seuss fan. Well, then I opened it up a little farther because I still didn't know where this book came from. And I opened it up to the next page, and there was a little note in there from the Golden Door Spa. Not bad. It said, this book is you, Lori, and for you. See, this was for my ex-wife. She finally had acknowledged. See, I had been forgiving her for all these years for not believing in me, proving people wrong along the road. And the biggest hump I had to get over was this one person who did not believe in me has finally acknowledged that I was able to accomplish everything I said. Well, I thought this is really cool. So if you'd mind, I'd like to indulge you for a second and share with you this book. Because it's a phenomenal book, and it teaches lessons that I think that you all should know. So let me share with you, I Knew You Could. I knew you could, and I knew it too, that you'd come out on top after all you've been through. And from here you'll go farther and see brand new sights. You'll face brand new hills that rise to new heights. I wish I could show you the stops that you'll visit, but that isn't my choice to make for you, is it? Instead, I can tell you some lessons and tales that I've learned and relearned in my time on the rails. First of all, you must find your own track so you can start right away and not be held back. But which track is yours? Well, that all depends on which way it's going and where it might end. Different tracks wind around, over, under, and through, so pick out the one that's best for you. Though the track you start out on will feel like the one, you might take a few more before you are done. Now with your eyes on your new destination, start up your wheels and roll out of the station. See, how many of you have felt like you had to take a new track in the last few years? Because things are changing. If you're doing business the same way you were doing it 20 years ago, it's not going to work. Think about what the cell phones looked like 10 years ago. You could knock somebody out with them. Now you're getting your messages, your BlackBerry, everything is working for you. On your new trip, you'll make plenty of stops in deep river valleys and on high mountain tops. Some will surprise you, and some will be planned, and you'll roll through each one saying, I think that I can. You'll go through tunnels surrounded by dark, and you'll wish for a light or even a spark. You might get scared or a little bit sad, wondering if maybe your track has gone bad. So here's some advice to help you ease your doubt. The track you took in must also go out. So steady yourself and just keep going on. Before you know it, some light will be showing, and then you'll be out heading to a new place. You'll be ready for the next tunnel that you face. Sometimes you'll look up and see planes in the sky, and you'll think to yourself, I wish I could fly. The cars on the road will seem quick and free. You'll feel stuck on your track and think, I wish that was me. See, you should never wish that you're somebody else. You guys are unique. Your facilities are unique. You're changing people's lives. People will come to you for your uniqueness. They don't want the same old, same old. If they did, they would continue doing what they're doing. Your businesses are growing because people want a unique and personal experience, and that's what they get from your facilities. That's what you want to give them, that unique experience. Because when you give them the unique experiences, your facilities will thrive and grow. And that's exactly the direction that you want to go. But the plane might wish he could get out of the air, saying, I wish I could travel like that train down there. The cars will watch as you speed right along, and they'll say to each other, look how fast and how strong. Don't worry about not being a car or plane. Just enjoy the trip you'll take as a train. Don't be afraid to toot your own horn if you need to be heard or there are people to warn, or if being yourself makes you so proud that you want to share it and sing it out loud. You've got to start singing out loud, people. You could be one of the best kept secrets on this planet. See, ambulatory surgical centers are serving a purpose, and they're touching people's lives. It's personal care. That's what you got to get across to your people. That's what you have to live and breathe, that you're giving personal care, personal attention. This is not white walls, cold atmosphere. This is a facility that people can touch people's lives. If you take that direction, you certainly will thrive. You'll follow your track through twists and through bends and stop at new stops and pick up new friends. They'll all come aboard with smiles and greetings. You'll have such great times with the people you're meeting. On the days when you're sad and feel you can't go, speak up and ask a friend for a tow. That's what friends do, so don't be afraid. You do the same thing if your friend needed aid. Well, you've got the toe right here, this organization. This is where the big toe is, the Sergeant Hulka from Stripes. See, the reality is they're here for you, and they're here to work with you. You might stop at some stops that you never have toured and look for new friends, but they won't come aboard. So you'll have to head out with a creak and a groan, setting out once again on your track all alone. Try to remember that the world is so wide, full of all kinds of people with their own trains to ride. Just stay true to yourself as you travel your track with no second guessing and no looking back. Once you're on the right track, you'll probably say, this one is mine, I'm here to stay. Try to enjoy the track that you choose. Stop now and then take in the views. Enjoy the journey. See, if you're not enjoying the journey, why are you doing it in the first place? Every struggle that you have to overcome is just going to make you stronger. You're in this business because you're resilient. If you weren't resilient, you would not have survived this long. And that's the reality. And you'll continue to survive, and you'll continue to thrive. If you rush forward as a general rule, before you arrive, you could run out of fuel. Don't overwork, but save up some strength. The way every day you can travel great lengths. You'll need all that strength on the days when you're stuck or tired or sad or just out of luck. When your belief in yourself doesn't feel quite so pure, and your I think I can doesn't sound quite so sure. That's when to push and to strive and to strain to show the world you're not giving up train. And you're wise if you know that you're doing your best means that sometimes you should just slow down and rest. Speeding through your whole trip will bring only sorrow, so slow down today and be happy tomorrow. There's more about life that you'll learn as you go, because figuring things out on your own helps you grow. Just trust in yourself and you'll climb every hill. Say, I think I can, and you know what? You will. See, I know that you guys are going to thrive. And I know that if you believe in yourself, just like the little train, that you're going to grow, and you're going to succeed, and you're going to achieve every single thing that you want. But the first thing you got to do is forgive yourself. See, we're not perfect. People make mistakes. People are not mistakes. And when you start to get that in your mind and you start to affirm your excellence, you're going to see your facilities in your life begin to grow and grow beyond your wildest dreams. Well, the last leg of the triad is gratitude. You've got to be grateful for the opportunity that you have at this moment in your lives to be able to help others. See, when we're grateful for the things that we have, we start to get more of those things. When we're grateful for the 67% increase, we're going to start to get more increases. It's just a start. But think about it. It's 5% more than it was yesterday. That's not such a bad thing. So you've got to open up your minds and open up your vision to see how you're going to be operating your businesses in the future. And you can't do it the way you've been doing it for the last 10 years. So you've got to do things a little bit different. And you've got to be grateful that you have the opportunity to be able to touch so many people's lives. And grateful for the opportunity that you have to have a personal situation in your facilities where it's a warm facility, where miracles happen on a regular basis. See, I was speaking to Jean yesterday, and I had said to her, I said, you know, you guys run an eye surgical center. I said, and you know what? Every day miracles happen in your center. See, because if you've been like me and you've walked into a center and you've gotten LASIK surgery and you've walked out of that center and you can see 20/15, you tell me that that's not a miracle. That's the closest thing to a miracle that there is. And when you help people like that, they tell other people. And you've got to start to educate your staffs so they can appreciate and be grateful for those things also. See, because when they start to see exactly what they're doing and how they're affecting and touching other people's lives, it makes a difference. It's kind of neat to be able to go and look at the clock in the morning and actually see the time. Some people can't do that. I was one of them just a few years ago. So miracles happen. When you're grateful for those miracles, things are going to start to change. You got to get your people on board also. And you've got to believe in yourself just as much as they do. See, because it's contagious. See, everybody wants to have what they don't have. Everybody wants to have what other people have. And when you have it, and you have it inside, and you're giving that away, and you're grateful about it, everybody's going to want to be there with you also. See, because that's what makes a big difference. Well, we have a new mission in this world, and actually, the father of psychology, he said, I've yet to see a seriously disturbed person who maintained an attitude of gratitude. See, when you maintain that attitude of gratitude and you wake up in the morning with that attitude of gratitude, it changes people. I see people every single morning, the first thing they say, how you doing? I say, I woke up. I'm ahead of the game. Everything above ground is a great day. What are you saying? Oh, got to go see the speaker. Got to get my hours. If I don't get my hours, I'm in trouble. You got to have that attitude of gratitude. See, and we also have a new mission. And the new mission, the evolution of the new mission in this world is going to be change. See, with this new evolution, you've got to change the way you look at your facilities. See, we did something different. When I set up Neurology Associates Group down in South Florida, we started out with 2 facilities. And in about 3 years, we grew that to 11 facilities in 3 counties. And we did it strictly on referral basis. Over 900 different attorneys referred us business on a regular basis. And they did it because we changed the paradigm of how we were operating our facilities. See, for years, we had receptionists sitting at the front desk. How many of you have receptionists? You'll have receptionists, right? And you say, what does a receptionist do? Well, they answer the phone. But don't they do more than that? See, what I found out when I put an ad in the paper for receptionist, I got every single person that I didn't want. See, I found that hiring is like dating. When you're desperate, 18 of the biggest losers show up at your front door. And when you're okay and you know what your mission and your vision is, all of a sudden the perfect people show up. Well, I decided to change things a little around. See, I did a lot of work with the Army and the Air Force, so I believe in acronyms. So I don't have a receptionist anymore. I have somebody called a DFI. And the DFI is my director of first impression. See, after all, aren't they the first impression that you have when someone calls up your facility? See, I've called up doctor's office and say, hello, doctor's office. It's like, help yourself. How can you help anybody if that person sounds like that on the phone? So my directors of first impression are the first impression. You know what my massage therapists are? They're my DLIs. They're my directors of lasting impression. Have you ever had a massage before? You're going to remember these people. We also took a little bit of a different focus on our teams, and we called them QA teams, quality assurance. See, I wanted to assure the quality of the care given in every single one of our facilities, not only to my patients, but to the people who referred business, whether it was an attorney, whether it was another doctor's office, whether it was an insurance company. Do you believe that insurance companies actually referred business to me? What a concept that was. Wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. But we changed that paradigm. We wanted the focus to be a little bit different. See, my question to you today, for you to answer on your own, is why should I come to your facility versus someone else's facility? What makes you different? What makes you unique? See, because people are going to be looking for the uniqueness and the difference. And the reality is, when you start to change and when you start to grow and you become more unique and more different, you become more attractive. Because that's what everybody wants. So you've got to look at what is the uniqueness about our facility. Why should people come to us for somebody else? And then it comes down to education. You've got to start to educate your patients. You've got to start to educate your doctors. You've got to start to educate your staff. One of the worst things that I ever see when I walk into one of my facilities is I see a patient and their family member has an issue that we can help, and they didn't even know that we treated that. I guarantee you, some of you have come up against that. Where is the literature in your facilities explaining what happens during that procedure, what happens afterwards? Where's the literature explaining to people what other procedures you do in your facility? Some of you have multidisciplinary facilities, and people only think that you do one thing, because that's why they're there. If you don't tell them, they're never going to know. So you've got to be your biggest advocates. When we train our staffs, when we train our doctors to ASK, you're going to start to GET. And you know what the interesting is? Us doctors are the worst at asking. We know that the people who touch people's lives are our support staff. I know that patients tell my staff a lot more than they will ever tell me. I used to call it the mom-dad game, you know, when you asked mom and she said no, and you went to dad, he said yes, and they both fought. See, I know these things happen. And I know the communication breakdown happens. See, but the more you're educating your staff, the more you're educating yourself, and the more you educate the patients, the more ability they have to refer others. That's when our practices grow. That's when our facilities start to thrive, regardless of whether the insurance is paying or not paying, regardless of whether Medicare is there or Medicare is not, regardless of whether PIP remains, our practices will continue to grow because people need what we have to offer. That's the difference. So you've got to look at that shift in your paradigm. You've got to look and see, how am I positioning my facility in my community? Do people know about you? See, on the outside of our building, we have virtues. And right in front of our building, if you go down to North Miami Beach, 167th Street, you will see the virtues are on our building. It says caring, dedicated, efficient, and charitable. You've got to hold those virtues if you're going to come work with us. What are the virtues of your facilities? What are you guys all about, other than getting another 5% increase? See, because when you're serving more people, it's going to expound, and then you become necessary. People need you. You become indispensable, and that's what you've got to do in the new evolution. We also have got to be able to touch people's lives on a regular basis. And I've talked a lot about touching people's lives. See, when I was in St. Louis, I had worked with the St. Louis Rams football team. And see, I went back into practice because I thought it'd be really cool if my son could get to see, Dad working with a bunch of football players. So I decided to go back into practice. Now, mind you, the Rams were the worst team in the 1990s. People forget about that. They won the first 4 games, and then they lost every single game. And then a guy named Kurt Warner showed up, and he decided to take us to the Super Bowl. And after that, I figured it wasn't getting any better. I'm getting out of misery. That's St. Louis misery for you. Well, I met a woman down in Florida, and her name's Jackie. That's my wife. See, it was kind of weird how I met her because, like I said, when you're desperate 18, the biggest losers show up at your front desk. It's just the way it happens. And when you're desperate, that's what happens. And when you're okay, all of a sudden you meet the right person. Well, I was down in Florida, and I was going through this divorce, and all these different things were happening, and the Rams had just won the Super Bowl, and I knew I had to get out of there. And I said to a friend of mine, a doctor, I said, you need to fix me up with someone. You never fix me up with anybody. He says, well, I know this woman. Her name is Jackie Klein. He said, I think she just broke up with her boyfriend. He said, let me give you her phone number, and why don't you give her a call? Well, I went ahead, I called her 4 or 5 times. Not too desperate, huh? 4 or 5 times I called her, no answer. Well, it happened to be Christmas Eve. So I decided to go to one of these singles parties. You ever see these singles parties? Well, down in South Florida, they had these singles parties. And I went into this singles party, and I walked around, and I was looking at people, and I was almost ready to leave. It just wasn't who I was. I never went to a singles party. I just met people just everywhere I went. Well, I walked in, and this woman was walking out, and she didn't have a smile on her face. I said, you need to smile. I said, come on, let's go dance. Well, I started dancing with her. I said, what's your name? She says, Jackie. I said, Jackie what? She says, Jackie Klein. I pulled her number out of my pocket. I said, is this you? She said, yes, that's me. Well, sure enough, what happened was I said, I've got to go out with you tomorrow. My friend Glenn Berger hooked me up with you. We got to go out. This is supposed to happen. Of course, then I called her 2:30 in the morning. Not too desperate. She thought I was nuts. Well, I went over to her house, and she said, my neck's bothering me a little bit. Can you fix it? And I said, absolutely. I've got the best hands, and they're registered with the state of Missouri. Well, I walked into her bedroom, and I looked, and on her bed, she had the same sheets as I had. Kind of weird. These were outdated 10 years prior. I started to adjust her, and the phone rang, and it was a friend of hers named Sharon. And she said, I'm cheating on you. A friend of mine is here, and he's working on my neck. I said, who's that? She said, my friend Sharon. She's a chiropractor. I said, what's her last name? She told me her last name. I said, give me that phone. See, I'd gone to school with her friend Sharon, and I happened to be one of the consultants in the group that she had just joined. Well, then as I was traveling, I got a phone call as I was walking down the streets of New York, and it was from Jackie, and she said, there's these guys down here that need to know you, and they think that you can help them to set up these facilities. Well, I said, great. Well, I went down there, and I met with them, and they said, you need to meet the last partner. We think you could really help us to grow the business. Well, the last partner walked in. It was a guy named Dr. Perry Saul. He looked at me, and he said, I can't believe it's you. See, Perry Saul was at my organizational meeting in St. Louis, Missouri, when I started a consulting base for over 400 physicians and their staffs. He said, it's you. Great, let's get going right away. And we started to build the facilities. Well, as the story has it, Jackie was the head business developer for Neurology Associates. She brought me into the company. I felt like Victor Kiam, because then I ended up running the whole company. Imagine working with me. I'm in bed in the morning. I'm looking over at the bed tower, and I'm saying, it's 8:30. What are you doing here? You should be calling on attorneys. We need money. We need business. Our numbers are down. Get out of bed. How would you like that in the morning? I wasn't calling up anybody else. Well, then something happened. On April 21st, I came home, And Jackie was in bed. And I looked at her, I could tell that there was something wrong. And I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "I felt a lump in my breast." I said, "Well, let's take a look." And we looked at it. And in fact, there was not only a palpable lump in her breast, but there was also an observational bump. You could actually see it. I said, "Let's call up the doctors. We need to get to the hospital. We need to get this taken care of right away." And I went into what I call emergency mode. Well, we went over to the hospital, and we contacted the doctor. His name was Dr. Rob Donaway. See, there was a problem. We were part of the people that were not uninsured. We were underinsured. We had one of those famous HMOs. You don't get to pick the best doctors because they're generally not on the program. So it was a challenge. Well, Dr. Donaway looked at it right away, and this guy was a mix between Dan Marino and Joe Namath. I knew right away we were in the right place. Well, 5 days later, we were at a surgical center getting a seminal node biopsy done. The biopsy came back, fortunately, that the cancer had not spread to the lymph nodes at the time. Well, this was good news. The bad news was we had to set up the surgery, and we had an HMO. We didn't know what we could do. Well, sure enough, we went to another doctor, Dr. Weiser, and we met his administrator, Ann. And Ann was a savvy administrator like a lot of you people here in the audience. She was going to go the extra mile. She was constantly striving for excellence. And she told us about a fund that worked with the center that would compensate for the lack of funds to have the surgery that we desired by the doctors of our choice. Well, then we had a big decision to make. See, the big decision was, do we do a single mastectomy or do we do a double mastectomy? And as some of you may know, this was a very difficult choice to do. Well, we decided that we were going to go for the double mastectomy. Jackie went into the hospital. She had the surgery done. And because of these administrators, because of these people who took care of it, our out-of-pocket expense was very, very limited. And she got the best care around. When the tests came back, we found out that in the healthy breast, she also had cancer. See, that's why I say sometimes listen to Jiminy Cricket. Listen to that gut. Don't change that question on the multiple choice test. Well, Jackie did great, but her life changed quite a bit. See, she decided that working with me was not what her goal in life was to be. So she handed me her resignation. Could you imagine? She handed me her resignation, and she said, "I'm going to go work as a director of physician education for home health." See, because I want to help people just like Ann, the administrator, and Dr. Weiser and Dr. Dunaway helped me. See, because I can only help so many people if I'm working with you in your business. But by helping people, once they get out of some of the facilities, the ambulatory surgical facilities, and they go home, and they need that home health, and they need people to touch, and they need to be educated, and the doctors need to know that it's out there for them, that's what I feel that I need to do. And it changed her life, and it changed our lives forever. And I want to welcome and thank my wife for being here today. This is my wife, Jackie Goodman, up here. And she's one of you. See, she's taken it upon herself, just like a lot of you people have, to change and touch people's lives. That's why you're here today. See, you're not only here to make a difference, you're here to change people's lives, and you're here to change the world. And because of that, the world is a much better place because you guys are in it today. I want to thank you very much for having me here today. It has been my pleasure, and I'm so grateful to be with people that want to change the world. Thank you very much.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue.
Oh, I have a certificate of appreciation from Donna Schlossberg.
No, from the whole society.
From the whole society. From